Welcome back. Let's talk about the market technicals. Mitesh Thakkar is now with us with his top trading bets. Mitesh, morning. First, your thoughts on the Nifty? Pretty quiet so far. Is there a trade that you would recommend at the index level? And what have you made of the fall in the banking stocks and the Nifty Bank?
Good morning, Rima. On the Nifty, I think I would avoid trading. We've had long calls a few days back and we're holding on to those positions, just trailing the stop loss now at about 16,485. So I think taking a fresh entry may not be the best idea right now because the risk reward equation is not very favorable. But in case we get an intraday dip, I think yes, the direction still remains on the long side. Bank Nifty on the other hand looks like consolidating between 36,250 and about 35,600. So around 35,600, I think if that level holds, a long can be taken with a 100-120 point kind of a stop, and the bounce back should give you two targets, 36,000 and 36,250, which is what I just mentioned. On the stock side, I have Petronet as a buy recommendation with a stop at 220 for targets of 230, and Pfizer is a conditional buy if it breaks above 5850 by then with a 5790 kind of a stop and a target of around 5996,000.
Mitesh, thank you very much for joining in. Actually, pharmaceutical is having a good session. So Apollo Hospitals is up 9%. It's a fresh high on Apollo Hospitals. Nectar Life Sciences, Suven Life Sciences are all rallying close to about 8%. Let's continue talking about the market fundamentals. Sunil Subramaniam, the MD and CEO of Sundaram Mutual Fund, is now with us on the show now. Mr. Subramaniam, morning. Markets at all-time high. Equity participation is booming. The tap of liquidity, doesn't seem to have any signs of slowing down. Q1 wasn't as bad as what was feared in terms of the earnings picture. What have you made of the markets, the kind of rally that we've already seen, and what does it mean, in terms of the way ahead?
So I think what it means is that the market has factored in a sharp V-shaped recovery in the Indian economy. Market is actually saying that the third wave will not damage the economy as much because progress on the vaccination front is very good. And I think by December, we should have about 65-70% of our population vaccinated, which would bring down the impact, right? Now, as far as the liquidity situation is concerned, right, there are two arms of liquidity which are flowing in. There's retail Indian money coming direct equities as well as through MFs, and there's foreign FPI liquidity. Now, actually, the change in the retail landscape in India is what gives hope because FPIs, ultimately look for which side of the bread is buttered. So if, for example, the US economy shows a faster recovery and tapering comes on the anvil, there can be some pullout. Second is if the US economy's recovery could lead to a fresh commodity rally, then FPI money could flow into other commodity-rich markets like Brazil, Russia, etc. So those risks which remain on the external flow front are today cushioned by the strong retail flows. Mutual funds are getting strong SIP flows and retail through demat accounts. So the point is that from the future perspective, right, if there could be some selling by FPIs in the large cap space, you have enough retail money to buy in there. What could happen is some amount of rejigging of small caps which have risen a lot and redeploying that into large caps. So I expect a sideways move to the market because the market has already discounted the future. Now the next is to actually wait for the festival season, to wait to see the third wave has an impact, to wait to see if RBI continues its accommodative stance. So all these are expectations around this. But even more important, the reason the markets are rising, I think, to finally say, is that the market has started shifting its focus to FY22-23 earnings. Because this year's pretty much done and dusted, 9.5% GDP growth, translating into whatever in terms of earnings growth, but it's a focus on which sectors, which companies are going to bounce back. Because I think for 22-23, we are looking at a 7% GDP growth, which will translate into easily a 15 to 20% stock market EPS growth. So I think that's what the market is now. I would not use the word betting, but what is it discounting? And I think the coming days, if those results come out as expected, market can touch new lifetime highs.
Sunil, which are the companies which are likely to lead in terms of FY23 earnings growth, which is what the market, as you said, is betting on? And therefore, what would be the asset allocation? Because you did say you expect markets to be sideways. So how do you make money? Where do you make money?
So where do you make money is you look at the underlying thread, right? Now, as I mentioned, tapering is a risk, right? But why is tapering going to happen? Is because the US economy and the European economy are going to come back on growth track, which is good news for export fronts. So I would look at an allocation into the export-oriented sectors. What are these? IT is obviously top of the pack. To some extent, pharma, chemicals is the new thing. And the third is on the electronics front, right? There's not many listed companies to play that, but the spillover into the capex required. The PLI scheme, I would expect to be a strong driver of this capex. So to me, an allocation in terms of the safety aspect is actually export is the safety aspect today. So there's a whole pack that I spoke about. Those sectors, companies in those sectors with a good export book, with good long-term contracts are the ones that we would look to add. So I would say about 30% into that pack. Another 40% I would say would be the Indian growth story, because a lot of the FPI money coming in is not just looking at 22, 23, it's looking beyond to the actual growth factors for India. As you know, the demographic dividend is finally coming to play, and India replacing China as a manufacturing destination is beginning to happen. So there's a lot of money which is flowing in, and in the industrial pack, where I would put in building materials, cement, steel, EPC contractors, there you will find a lot of long-term money flowing in, whether it's from mutual funds or FPIs, and the valuations are still reasonable. So I would actually make a 40% allocation into that slightly longer pack. The balance 30%, I would split it equally between consumption, but consumption with a discretionary focus. Why do I say that? Because this summer was a washout, as was last summer, because of the COVID crisis happening at that time. But with Diwali, I think the consumer durables and discretionary, auto, housing, I include in this pack, would start showing a rise. Market has discounted it to some extent. So the juice, some of the juice is already in the price. But I would say still that growth numbers can still beat expectations and make healthy returns, as opposed to a FMCG pack where I think fairly well discounted. The other half of this allocation, I mentioned consumer discretionary as one half, the other half would go into banking and financial services. Because as you have seen with the COVID wave, it has not impacted the formalized sector in jobs. So there's a lot of money, people have a lot of time because of the lockdowns, people work from home situation, a lot of money, which part of it is flowing into the capital markets through demat accounts, part of it will go into consumption, but ultimately it's a banking system which has to take that money from the people and route it into where the money is needed in financing. So bankers are in a sweet spot. They have over-provided for COVID, according to us. Their collection efficiency is decent, liquidity is ample, and interest rates on the deposits and everything is also at all-time lows. So they're in a sweet spot, and I would expect good quality banks and good quality NBFCs to actually gain market share in the coming days. So half of this rest allocation, I would put it into the banking and financial services space. So that's my broad way that I would break it up.
Okay, 40% in industrials and capital goods, 30% cater to the discretionary consumer pack, as well as 30% towards the good quality banking and financial names. You would leave out the smaller NBFCs here.
Okay.
Sunil, what about this, the weekend announcement, very competitive pricing from Ola scooters. Do you see it disrupting the two-wheeler market and the listed players?
See, if you look at it from a two-wheeler person, right? In a car, I would expect the disruption to be higher because petrol costs a larger part of that cost, right? But in a two-wheeler, if you see, the two-wheeler guys need speed. So one of the things where I think electric vehicles may take time to come up is to come up with a top speed, which these people. Second is the load bearing. You know, in rural India, two-wheelers are still taking fertilizer bags, cement bags, agricultural produce. So you need sturdy, strong two-wheelers. So this disruption may be an urban affair for people who are going around town where speed is not so key, and who are environmentally sensitive, which is the younger generation. So I don't expect, it's expected to disruptive in pockets, but as an industry, I don't think yet that is going to disrupt the entire industry value chain yet. It's a matter of time. So right now, I would say that EVs in the car space are showing greater traction. Two-wheeler space, I think that it will take a little bit more time for it to come as a real disruptive force. There will be good, strong growth rates, but on a small base.
Unfortunately, Sunil, we've run out of time. We'll continue this conversation another day. Thank you very much for joining in. That's Sundaram Mutual Fund for you. Time to slip into a very short break on that note. Up next, Indiabulls Real Estate has filed an application with the NCLT for merger with the Embassy Group entities. Detailed analysis coming up on the other side of this break.